Hello, and welcome back to Square Talking, the Cheshire Freemasons podcast. I'm Neil Lloyd, and with me this evening is my brother, both in Freemasonry and in the family sense, Keith Lloyd.
Hello.
And we also have another fellow Freemason, Iain Collins.
Good evening.
So, on this episode of the podcast, we are going to be asking the question, what is Freemasonry really? So the aim of this episode is to bust some common myths and answer any questions the listeners may have about what Freemasonry is, what we do, what the purpose of it is all about.
We have a bigger question though to answer first. Neil, have you come up with your final word from last episode? Oh my gosh. I don't even think he spent some time, listeners, thinking about what his third word is.
So what did I have? I had
Charity.
I had charity.
Yeah, charity.
Friendship.
I had friendship.
Cuddly toy.
Yeah, cuddly toy.
I could give you blue book if you want to go there, but that's really
That's two words, isn't it? Could I hyphenate it?
Maybe we could hyphenate it.
But that's also gone into your time capsule last time,
Yeah.
so you need something different. We'll come back to it at the end of the programme.
There we go. He's got some more minutes. I can't believe he's needed more minutes. But anyway, carry on, Neil.
So, yeah, what myths are we going to bust, guys?
Well, that is an interesting question. How about secret society? There's a first myth. I'll throw that one out there.
Okay, well, I mean, I've always been told that we're not a secret society. We are a society with secrets.
I've heard the same thing, but what does that mean? For me, that means that we don't really talk about what happens inside the lodge, but we're not secret outside. How about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I am quite open about telling people that I am a Freemason. People I work with know that I'm a Freemason. And I think it is about constantly having to dispel those myths when you're out and about with people. One thing that I constantly get asked is it a cult? No, it's not a cult. It's just a group of friends meeting together, to try and improve themselves and improve the world around them.
I think the best way we can describe this is that Freemasonry in England is over 300 years old. It was founded in 1717, from what we understand. And there is a bit of confusion about where we first come from, but the most accepted sort of theory is that we came from the stonemasons guild. And back then, people needed to share the knowledge of how to work the stone and to build some of the great cathedrals and some of the great stone buildings that we have throughout history, throughout Europe. And the secrets of how to work the stone were the things that were kept in the lodges or in the stonemason guilds. And we have to remember that back then everyone was, or not everyone, but a lot of people were illiterate. So that's why, for example, that we learn our ritual. And in order for them to identify themselves and their level that they were at, they were given handshake. So this is where sort of some of the secrets that we have inside the organizations that we hold dear to our hearts sort of come from. And that's the sort of historic background to where I think this secret society sort of myth comes from, is that we're a very old organization. And back in the day, back 300 years or so ago, before that this knowledge was kept inside the circles. What's your guys' thoughts on that throughout history, the historic facts?
Well, as I've been led to believe that back in the day, Freemasonry was actually quite open. People didn't keep the fact that they were Masons secret. But then during the Second World War, it had to become secret because Freemasons were persecuted by the Nazis. So it went secret then, and it became kind of like, I think it just, part of that just stuck. But I do know that more than recently, for the last few years at least, we have been, coming out of the virtual shadows and, making ourselves more well known. We've got podcasts, we've had a TV show about Freemasonry, going inside the lodge and showing people what happens. As I say, we attend events. You can join online. Lots of information is available online. So I think the idea that it's a secret society anymore, just isn't true. I think you can go online and find out a lot of information about us if you want to.
Or what secret society advertises for you to join through our website?
Well, exactly, yes.
And I think the fact that for many years we were a secret society, as it were, and we wasn't openly discussed what we did, it didn't do the organisation any favours, and it only helped to perpetuate those myths that we're talking about today.
So do you think then, gents, that we are in it for world domination?
Well, to be honest, I mean, from my point of view, I think sometimes we find it difficult enough to organise a social event, let alone dominate the world.
I as a member, I do find this rather laughable that we are in it to dominate the world. I think it's a ridiculous notion from someone who's inside the organisation, because I go and have a meal and we do some amateur dramatics, as you said earlier, with my parents, and as with my father, and he's one of the members, but with a load of other gents, and I don't see any world domination in anything that we're trying to achieve there.
Well, I think with Freemasonry, it's like anything else that people don't really understand. That it's very easy to lodge conspiracy theories or attach conspiracy theories to something that you don't really understand. For me, before I joined Freemasonry, and we'll come on to this a bit more later on about expectations versus the reality of it, I didn't know what to expect, but I was quite surprised by how normal everybody was. And I don't know what I was expecting it to be, but somewhere in the back of my head, there are these conspiracy things about, keep things covered up and what have you. And then really once you get into it, and all it is really a very big charitable organisation with lots of people trying to achieve the same thing. And as I say, if people who are outside Freemasonry, because that knowledge has been restricted in the past as to what it is that we do, that's where that gap has been filled with conspiracy theories, about the Illuminati and world domination and things like that.
We went to a lecture at Commons Lodge, I believe it was.
Yes.
Where it was a fascinating lecture where they discussed where a lot of the myths started, and the myths that Freemasonry are devil worshippers. And that came from a French journalist who deliberately made up a fake story just to see how much traction it would get. So he released this book basically saying that Freemasonry was a cover for devil worship, and it became a best-selling book. But when he held the press conference to basically say, I made this all up to see how gullible the public was, no one turned up.
Interesting.
Because the myth was more interesting than the simple truth that they're just people trying to make the world a better place.
Because wasn't there something similar to that with someone, I can't remember the guy's name, who was taken hostage by the Spanish Inquisition, and nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition, but he was taken hostage by the Spanish Inquisition, and they tortured him he said that they tortured him to get all this information about Freemasonry out there and about what they did. And he wrote a famous book about how he'd been tortured and what the Spanish Inquisition had done to him and how he'd held on to these secrets forever. And then really once the Spanish Inquisition was no more and people got access to their records, they found out that this guy had actually spilled the beans at the first opportunity, even before they gave him the option of the comfy chair. And he basically told them everything. So it is interesting where these conspiracy theories come from and things like that. That sometimes it is just people making things up.
Yeah, and as Freemasons, we have 4 key values that we strive for, which is integrity, friendship, respect, and service. And we are not a political organization. I think that's another thing that gets thrown out there as well. And we're open to all religious, Hindus, Christians, Buddhism, every religion under the sun can be represented. You don't have to be of one specific religion to join Freemasonry. And actually, we're not allowed to talk about politics or religion inside of the lodge, which may surprise some people. But I think they are the 2 things that really split and divide people. And we're an organization where we don't want to be divided. We want to be together. But I suppose we do have to have a belief in a supreme power or something out there that is higher than yourself. But that is one of the few prerequisites to being able to join Freemasonry, and the belief that there is a higher power in the universe, whether that's Christian God or a Hindu God or something along the line. And we don't actually use the word God, but that's one of the prerequisites. So I think that dispels some of that myth that is thrown out there. I think, as you said, public perception, I think we are really trying to change that. And we've been driving really hard to show the good that we do out in the world. And it's not just us men out there, that there is women Freemasonry, that there's the Women's Grand Lodge, and that think that, okay, their numbers are nowhere near as high as ours, but they are out there. I think numbers-wise, I think we stand at around 180,000 in the UK, in England. I think there's about 27,000 members in Scotland and approximately 20,000 members in Ireland. But also there is about 5,000 members of female Freemasons. And worldwide, have a guess how many members you reckon there are worldwide?
Of Freemasonry?
Yeah, here we go. Here's a stat.
Okay, let's say 500,000.
I think more, is quite popular in America, isn't it? So I would say 3 million.
Oh, close. 6 million
members. Wow, really? Gosh.
Worldwide. Wow. Freemasons, which I thought was a fantastic stat that we could look. So, misconceptions. Freemasonry isn't free, I suppose. I think that's something that we sort of maybe need to talk about a little bit, is that we do have to pay a little bit of a subscription, which is mainly admin fees and things like that. So that's another thing that we have to. So it's probably about, I think, £200 a year, I think, for Freemasons to be a member of Freemasonry.
Yeah. And then there's different. There's the dining fee for your lodge as well, because as you've heard us mentioning, the festive board, which is the meal that we have after we've done our work in the lodge room, and we come down to the festive board, we have a meal, and you do have to pay for that as well. That's on top of your lodge fees as well.
Yeah, so there's only a little bit when you put it out over the whole year.
Oh gosh,
I think it's only a small amount of money, but that also is one of the myths, that you have to be really wealthy to be a Freemason, where that's not really the case. Is I think a couple of £100 max a year, I think, would cover most of it. Dining fees are normally.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be Daddy Roebucks to be a Freemason. And I think that's kind of like, I mean, and as I said, part of the myth is that you only get people of a certain class in Freemasonry, or they come from certain roles, certain roles in society. Yeah, as I've been saying, that's completely not true. I've spoken to people from all walks of life, from somebody that fits gas boilers to Second World War fighter pilots, as I mentioned earlier. It's the complete walk of life, the complete gamut of everybody can be Freemasons, and I've met a range of people.
There is another restriction that is on age for joining Freemasonry.
Okay.
And that's probably our final restriction that we have, is that you normally have to be 21 to join Freemasonry. However, you can come in slightly earlier now, 18, if you have a member, or what we call actually is something that we call as a Lewis. I've never quite understood where this reference comes from. I don't know if you guys have heard this.
Well, no.
The only Lewis I know is on Inspector Morse.
Oh, okay. So yeah. I don't know why. Maybe it's something that's not correct, and I need to re-education on that. But in my lodge, they say that if you're a Lewis, if you know someone who's been in Freemasonry, or your family members are in Freemasonry already, then you can join it. They refer to it in my lodge as a Lewis.
I know that there's been an interest in university lodges, hasn't there, where we've had stands at Freshers Week and things like that to get people interested in joining Freemasonry at university as well.
Yeah, so University Lodge, I think, would be a really great idea to get them onto one of our episodes of Square Talking, because they do things a little bit differently at a university lodge, because obviously you're only at university for a couple of years, and that university may not be where you come from, where you live. So you may go to that university, you get that town or that area for 3 years, and then move back or move on to different new pastures. So they have to do things a little bit different at University Lodge. Plus, also students don't have as much money, so I think they support their members a little bit different. So I would really like to get one of the university lodges on in the area to talk about.
Yeah, because I would find that really interesting myself, because I don't know a lot about it. So I think it would be like a really interesting thing to speak to University Lodge.
I've just done a bit of Googling. A Lewis is the name given to the son of a Freemason. In England during the 19th century, the son of a Mason was called a Lewis because it was his duty to support the sinking powers and aid the failing strength of his father.
There we go. So we've all learned something. And that's basically what we're here to do, learn about stuff in Freemasonry and put that out there. But yeah, as I said, in my life, they've always called them Lewis. So that's an interesting fact there.
That's our Solomon's nugget for the day.
And there we go. And we do actually have some... And there's another element here which is really confusing. In our next episodes, we've got some new Masons coming on, and his name is Lewis, who is coming on. So, which I actually thought this was a little bit confusing for when we talked about under 18s, and he is very young as well. He's just turned 18, so
wow.
It'd be interesting to hear about what he has to say, and that's a little plug for our next episode. But so. Also, I think that something that pulled me into Freemasonry was the Da Vinci Code and National Treasure and all these movies that get made about Freemasonry. Gents, any standout movies that have pulled you in a little bit?
I like National Treasure.
National Treasure is one of my favorites.
Yeah, that is a fun movie. That I suppose yeah, the Da Vinci Code. That's a good one. And I think both of those portray Freemasonry in a positive light. In the previous episode, Neil mentioned a couple of films that are not so positive about Freemasonry, but nevertheless, they are interesting. I think one of the films which really interested me, which I found fascinating, was Murder by Decree, which is a Sherlock Holmes one, which is brilliant.
You just headed me off at the pass there. I was just about to say Murder by Decree. Also, there is a TV movie from the 1980s starring Michael Caine.
Oh, another Michael Caine.
Yeah. It's Jack the Ripper. And in that, I know I mentioned in my last episode, that is
he going to get a plug every episode?
No, I'll move on to Roberto Calvi in a few weeks. In that, again, it goes into the Masonic conspiracy, and it actually kind of runs with it in a similar way to... In fact, thinking about it, the plot of the Michael Caine TV movie just rips off Murder by Decree.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people know that.
Interesting stuff, gents. Interesting stuff. As I said, National Treasure, all these movies. I think another one which is really good, which I actually really enjoyed, was the other Dan Brown series, The Lost Symbol, which was on Paramount, I think, which is about 10 episodes long. If you haven't seen it, it is really excellent. It's got Eddie Izzard, but it's a good watch. Not really factual because it sort of talks about the hidden wisdom. But and they're searching across Washington for the hidden wisdom, and it's a lot more Masonic themed. But it's a really good watch if you guys have not watched it.
National Treasure, they did a TV series of that as well.
They did, yes, that's
and
right.
There's an entire episode of that which is fantastic, where it's all about Elvis Presley being a Freemason and having left this secret Masonic message in one of his recordings. Okay. It's a really good episode.
Was Elvis Presley a Freemason?
I've no idea, but apparently, according to this TV series, Elvis was a Freemason.
Right, okay.
So I have a bit of a controversial thing to throw out there, gents, is that what is Freemasonry, I think, to each one of us? I actually think that Freemasonry is different for every single person that is a Freemason. Because I think that Freemasonry really is different for every single member. It could be for some members, I don't know who maybe, and we're going to go maybe a little bit more serious here, for some members who live alone and who don't have much social interaction with the outside world, Freemasonry could be one of their only outlets where they actually go out in the week and speak to other people, and they could be at home. But other people, they may be really busy chaps, and it's just something that they do occasionally. And I think that the whole world of Freemasonry, what it is really, is individual to each separate member. And especially like you guys, being brothers, you have a unique, different approach, which I don't have, what I have with my dad. But what's your thoughts on that?
I think when we were on our Masonic journey, you can join other side degrees. So once you've done your first 3 degrees, there's other things that you can join. And I think we made a conscious decision to go off and join different things separately. We didn't want it to be a case where, you ask for one loyalty and you get both of us by default. So
you always get the second one comes along.
Yeah. So you've gone off and joined a few different things to what I've joined. And so we're now having different Masonic journeys as a result.
Well, that's true, but even though we're in different things, I still get called your name, which I find quite disturbing, but there we are.
And insulting, seeing as you're about 10 years older than me.
Wow. Yeah, for me, I think you get out of Freemasonry what you put into it. So it's, and I think that is how, from my point of view, everybody has a different Masonic experience. You can just turn up, you don't take part in the ceremony in the lodge room and then just go down and have your meal, and that's perfectly fine. Or you can get involved or in the ceremonies, and and I think what you, as I say, what you put in is what you get out, really.
I think you've hit on something there, Keith. Is what is it? It is a bit of a ceremony, and Freemasonry is split up into what we call degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And when you come into Freemasonry, you become an entered apprentice, and you take the first degree, and that sort of deals with, I suppose, birth and joining into Freemasonry. And there's some actions that we do and the words that we say, and then that's basically that. And as you said, we go down and we have our festive board, and then after that you spend a little bit of time maybe doing some sort of work in the lodge, and then you may go through your second degree, which deals with the values of education and life, and teaches us a little bit more about that. And there's different words and different actions. And then we move finally to the third degree. And that's where some of the phrases like giving someone the third degree comes from, where we actually deal with death. And that basically what is Freemasonry. It is them ceremonies and that ritualistic approach, I suppose, to that bit. But it's also the meal afterwards, the festive board afterwards. And I think that summarizes what is Freemasonry. But as you said, it's a unique experience for each individual member as to what they do and how they go about that and how much Freemasonry involves in their life.
And sometimes you can watch a ritual ceremony that you've seen dozens of times. You'll go and visit another lodge and you'll watch somebody else do it, and they might just highlight or emphasize a different word, and it can put a whole different spin on the ceremony and what you think about it.
That's something else that you've highlighted about what is Freemasonry. Freemasonry is a lot about visiting.
Definitely, yeah.
And visiting other lodges and watching them do their ceremony and meeting other people. So I think that's something excellent to talk about there.
And then you have the fear when you're visiting of sitting at the festive board and feeling the hand on your shoulder and being told you're it and you have to do a little speech on behalf of the visitors.
We love our speeches in Freemasonry.
Yes, we do. We do love our speeches, and also some people trying to be stand-up comedians at them and quite frankly failing. So, so I think as I say, from my own point of view, you get out of it what you put into it. One of the most surprising things for me as well, and I'm sure I've mentioned this before, was how friendly everybody was and how welcoming everybody was when I came into my new lodge. I really was made to feel part of the Masonic family. Was there anything that surprised you about Freemasonry, Neil?
Well, again, it's actually it's that friendliness of it and the constant, from the beginning, people trying to put you at ease, using humour. Remember sitting in the bar area waiting for to be told you can go upstairs and start preparing yourself, and 2 or 3 people just walking past making a comment of, "Oh, we haven't fed the goat for 3 days." Yeah, and that seems to be a running joke when someone is coming in, that you say that to them. So and yeah, it's that sense that we are brothers in the lodge, and that there's a connection there between us, and you get that instantly.
And what about you, Iain? What was the most surprised you about Freemasonry when you joined?
I think I was surprised about how old the traditions were, and that they're still enacted today, and the stories that come through in Freemasonry and the tradition that is still held onto by everyone today. And like things like the wearing of aprons, obviously, because stonemasons used to wear aprons when they're doing their work to protect their clothing. And we obviously still wear aprons today. And we mainly use aprons to denote different levels that have been achieved through Freemasonry. And basically, we change our aprons when you move from fellowcraft or from an entered apprentice to fellowcraft, and then from fellowcraft to master mason. And it denotes where you're at the level that you're at. And I thought that it was that really nice tie of tradition and history, it being all brought into one element.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the hardest things to explain to non-Masons is, if you see a Mason on the telly and they're there or on a film, and they're there with the collar and an apron on and the white gloves, and it's like, well, why do you get dressed up like that? What is that about? And as you were saying there, Iain, it's about tradition, but trying to explain that to somebody that's a non-Mason, they can find it a bit strange that we do dress up like that. But as you say, it's part of our historic tradition and what we do. So what would you say one of the hardest things to explain to non-Masons is now?
It is about what function of Freemasonry is and what we do. Trying to get people to understand, that a lot of times you're doing this for your own personal growth, that, you're putting the time and effort in to improve yourself. Masonry has certainly improved my confidence. Having to stand up in the lodge and do the ritual has certainly kind of helped me to understand that I am capable of things I didn't think I was. And it's trying to get people to understand that, you're doing something for no remuneration that will improve yourself and also help others.
I mean, yeah, it's going back to that sense of camaraderie and that sense of brotherhood. I mean, I remember when sitting at a festive board with Neil, and somehow he managed to drop a gravy boat of piping hot gravy into his lap. And yes, and that's where he got the nickname the Bistow Kid.
Yeah, I'm still known in the lodge as the Bistow Kid.
Yeah,
must have been pretty epic and painful at the same time.
To be honest, it's not the worst thing that's happened to me at a festive board. Not so long ago, I was there and I somehow managed to knock a glass over. It shattered and a piece of the glass went into the hand of the person sat next to me.
yeah.
I'm not sitting next to you at a festive board. Okay.
That's why we've got no sharp objects near him at the moment. Yeah, so I mean, as I say, you do get funny incidents that happen, and sometimes you get things which are very moving that happen as well. I mean, I remember we do celebrate people that have been in Masonry a long time. So when they get to certain anniversaries, we do a special for them, a special ceremony for them. And I remember we were doing a ceremony for somebody that had been in the lodge for 50 years. And it was just sitting there listening to their life story and, everything that they'd gone through and the trials and tribulations of a well-lived life that, everybody has dropped stitches in the tapestries of life, don't they? And I just found it incredibly moving to sit and listen to someone's life story when it isn't a eulogy and they're actually sitting there listening to it themselves.
No, they are some of the special moments in Freemasonry, and having sat through a couple of them is excellent achievements for fellow brothers to get 50 years, 60 years in Freemasonry, and they are really special achievements, and I'm so glad that we get to share some of them with them.
Well, our friend Simon, he was at, I think it was a 70th. It was a chap who was in his hundreds.
Wow.
Gosh. Wow, yeah.
Said that was a very special evening.
Yeah, so I think it allows personal growth and friendships to flourish. And that is one of the key things about what Freemasonry is all about. It is about being able to make new friends, move in new circles. And as we've talked about before, is get open to people that we wouldn't normally speak to. And it's not very often that, I don't know, you might get an 18-year-old sat next to a 75-year-old who they have no personal connections or anything like that, and that they're just there talking and sharing stories and different things about their life.
So if you have got a question you've always wanted to ask a Freemason.
Who, me?
No, just the people
Oh, right,
listening,
okay.
our great listeners. If you have got a question you'd like to ask a Freemason, us, then please do write in. You can reach us at podcast@cheshiremasons.co.uk. We're also going to be getting some social media set up in the near future, Instagram, things of that nature. So please do ask anything you want. It can be a serious question. It can be a strange question. It can be a myth that you want. It can be a myth that you want busting. Just send it in to us and we'll do what we can to answer those questions.
So sort of, what have you always wanted to ask a Freemason but never dared to?
Yes.
I am really looking forward to listening or reading what you guys have had to say about that.
You know, a question I get asked quite a lot when I go into work.
Go on.
What's in your case? Because we all carry cases around with us with our outfits in and stuff.
Is it a packet of Bisto gravy granules?
Yes.
Maybe. Are you a sponsor for them?
If Bisto Gravy would like to sponsor the podcast, get in contact.
We could sit here with gravy jugs and be sucking gravy while making this podcast. I really hope that comes to fruition. I'm really looking forward to reading that email. So, brethren listeners, it's come to that time, I'm afraid, gents. We're getting on to the end of our podcast today. So we've gone around the houses a lot. We've talked about what Freemasonry is. We've decided we're not a secret society, and that we would really love for you to get involved if you're not already involved. And we're really excited next episode to welcome our first guests on to Square Talking, the Cheshire Freemasons podcast. And they're going to be two brothers that were only initiated this year, and that we're really looking forward to asking them about what they thought about the initiation, what they think about Freemasonry, and we can delve into what they have to say. So tune in next time for that episode. We really would love to hear what you have to say. As we said before, podcast@cheshiremasons.co.uk, and also a view on the Cheshire Freemasons website at cheshirefreemasons.org.uk/square talking. Gents, it's been a pleasure as always. I'm really excited to welcome some new people on next episode. And that's so from me right now. Have a great rest of your week, evening, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks a lot.
Bye. Goodbye.